The sky was a tender purple as dusk settled over Luminara. Kael wiped sweat from his brow, his heart pounding like a war drum in his chest. He clutched the pendant tightly, its glowing warmth seeping into his skin, igniting something long dormant within him. The village square was empty, except for the whispers of the wind that crept around stone cobbles. It felt as if the entire world was holding its breath, waiting for something momentous to happen. Kael had found the pendant buried in the forest, tucked inside the hollow of an ancient oak. It called to him like a siren's song, tugging at the edges of his mind. Now as he stood there alone, shadows encroaching at the edges of his vision, visions of dragons swirled in his mind. Mighty scales of emerald and sapphire, wings that could blot out the sun. A world forgotten, a world that was his to rediscover, if only he dared. "Kael, you're still out here?" called a voice, clear and steady. "I am, Eldrick," Kael replied, turning to face his closest friend, whose eyes mirrored the depth of the night sky. Eldrick stepped into the square's dim light, eyebrows raised in concern. "It's dangerous with the increasing darkness. The stories about the Forest of Whispers, they speak of shadows that corrupt all things." Kael managed a tight smile, his resolve unwavering. "The pendant," he said, holding it up for Eldrick to see. "I think it wants me to go there, to the forest. There's something I must find." Eldrick hesitated, but conviction carried his words. "Then you'll not go alone. The path ahead is perilous, and I'll not let you walk it by yourself." The pair stood in silence, knowing the real journey was just beginning. As they made their way through the village, the glowing pendant lighting their path, they understood the gravity of their quest. Luminara's fate hung by a thread, and they were its only hope. The misty air prickled with anticipation as they ventured towards destiny, bathed in the strange luminescence of a pendant that held the power to change everything. The dense trees of the Forest of Whispers loomed ahead, their ancient forms silhouetted against an indigo sky. Each step deeper into the forest filled Kael with an electric mixture of fear and thrill. The pendant around his neck vibrated softly like a cat's purr, guiding his every footfall. Beside him, Eldrick's presence was a steady force, a reminder of the promise of companionship. "The stories must have some truth," Eldrick murmured, eyes scanning their shadow-draped surroundings. "There are eyes in the dark." Kael's gaze followed Eldrick's, landing on glimmers that shimmered beneath moonlit foliage. A dozen pairs of eyes, not hostile but curious. They belonged to scraggly foxes with coats that shimmered in the glow of the pendant, their snouts poised as if recalling some ancient kinship. "Why do they watch us?" Kael asked, more to himself than for an answer. "Perhaps they remember the magic," Eldrick replied. "This place once thrived with it, before darkness swept through." He pulled his cloak tighter, as if to shield himself from the cold thought. Taking another careful step, they were led further by the pendant's light that seemed to grow stronger with each step into the forest's heart. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted, a pulse that rippled through the earth itself, as if the forest was awakening. A voice, part memory, part dream, resonated in their minds. "Seek the dragon's breath, where fire meets with storm. Your path is yours to forge, but beware the shadow's form." Kael met Eldrick's gaze, both of them wide-eyed with wonder. "We have our task, then," Eldrick said, a mix of awe and determination playing on his face. "The dragon's breath, it's more than just wind and fire, it's a beacon." "Am I ready for this?" Kael wondered aloud, uncertainty clouding his features. "If anyone is, it's you," Eldrick responded firmly. "You have the heart of Luminara." The forest seemed to part before them, a path unfurling like a tapestry as they ventured towards a destiny carved in shadows and carried in whispers. Beneath the emerald canopy of the Forest of Whispers, the light from Kael's pendant cast a thin silver line through the darkness, guiding them through a labyrinth of ancient oaks and twisted vines. The air was thick with the scent of moss and decaying leaves, and the sound of distant rustling accompanied them like a forgotten melody. The forest seemed to breathe around them, its ancient power palpable. Kael and Eldrick moved cautiously, each step deliberate and resonating with purpose. Shadows flickered at the corners of their vision, keeping pace with them as they pressed onward. "Something's changed," Kael said, his voice barely above a whisper. He stopped, his senses heightened by a sudden awareness. "The air, it feels different." Eldrick paused, listening carefully. In the distance, a low hum grew steadily into an enchanting chorus, mingling with the symphony of rustling leaves. "It's like a song," Eldrick murmured, gaze transfixed. "Something ancient calls to us." Drawn by its allure, they followed the melody deeper into the forest, emerging into a clearing illuminated by a beam of moonlight. In its center, a stone altar stood weathered and worn, vines crawling along its surface like intricate veins. Resting upon it was a map, etched into the stone, pulsing with the same ethereal light as Kael's pendant. "It's showing us something," Kael marveled as lines of light traced paths upon the map, converging at a single point, a mountain peak etched in fiery red. "It's the dragon's breath," Eldrick realized, excitement bubbling beneath his calm demeanor. "The mountain will lead us there, or so the legends say." Kael nodded, feeling the weight of destiny settle in his chest. "This journey might end before it truly begins if we can't reach it. We need to traverse the Laclair Valley by dawn to avoid the darkness that lurks." Eldrick clapped him on the shoulder, a reassuring presence amidst the mystery. "Together, Kael, we'll forge a path through what comes. We owe it to Luminara." As they left the clearing, the stone altar's light faded back into obscurity. With newfound determination, Kael and Eldrick pressed on into the night, their hopes pinned on a distant peak that glowed in the far reaches of their dreams. The journey to Laclair Valley was fraught with unseen perils and hidden wonders. As dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of rose and gold, Kael and Eldrick found themselves gazing down upon the valley, a sweeping expanse punctuated by jagged rocks and valleys cloaked in mist. Tales told of the valley's unpredictable winds and the rugged paths that shifted like living creatures, yet now it lay silent beneath the morning sky. The only sound was the soft rustle of wind through the grasses, whispering secrets meant for those who dared to listen. "It looks peaceful from up here," Kael said, taking in the expansive view. "Too peaceful, perhaps." Eldrick nodded, eyes scanning the horizon like a seasoned falconer searching for prey. "Peace never lasts in stories like these. We'll need to traverse it carefully." As they descended, the valley's tranquility began to unravel. Once onto the rocky path, they felt the subtle shifts beneath their feet, the stones protesting their presence and testing their resolve. The edges of the mist curled about them like ghostly fingers, a reminder of the mysteries that lay beyond sight. A shadow flickered by, fleeting yet unmistakable. It was the peculiar movement of a creature caught between worlds, a griffin. Its wings stirred the air, a bridge between earth and sky. "A guardian," Eldrick whispered in awe. "They once protected places of power." The griffin landed with a feline grace, eyes as deep as wells gazing at them. Kael stepped forward, heart pounding a rhythm of ancient familiarity. "We mean no harm. We seek the dragon's breath to save Luminara." The griffin tilted its head as if weighing the truth in Kael's words. A rumble resonated within its chest, harmonizing with the wind, a sound that was both a warning and a blessing. Eldrick, sensing the unspoken acceptance, urged Kael onward. "We have its blessing. Let's not squander it. The path is dangerous, but it's ours to tread." With the griffin at their backs, a silent guardian watching their journey, Kael and Eldrick pressed on through Laclair Valley, pushing past doubt and stepping boldly onto their destined path, one that shimmered with the promise of magic and the threat of darkness. The air was crisp and thin as Kael and Eldrick ascended from the valley, their path narrowing into a winding trail that snaked through the towering escarpments of the mountain range. Before them, the peak loomed, a sentinel of stone crowned by swirling clouds that flickered with the promise of the dragon's breath. As they climbed, Kael felt an internal shift, as though the altitude was recalibrating something deep within him. The pendant around his neck pulsed more fiercely with every step, guiding his heart and lighting his resolve. "Eldrick, have you ever seen a place like this?" Kael mused, awestruck by the raw beauty of the rugged landscape. The peaks stretched like the spines of great beasts asleep beneath the earth. "In stories only," Eldrick replied, his breath visible in the chill. "Legend spoke of a site where magic and nature were closest, a place where time is but a shadow." The ascent grew steeper, testing their strength and will. Every muscle strained against the cold wind that whistled through rocky crevices. Yet neither faltered, their bond as steadfast as the stones beneath them. As they reached a rocky outcrop, Kael paused, sensing a shift in the air. From the ledge, a network of caves twisted into the mountain's body, each entrance exhaling apprehension. "This must be part of the trial," Kael suggested, squinting into the mysterious depths. The mountain responded with a low tremor, a vibration that seemed to echo in Kael's bones. "Perhaps the caves hold the answers, or the challenges we seek," Eldrick replied, his voice resolute though tinged with caution. Without hesitation, they chose the central cave, its entrance gaping like a monster's maw. Inside, the world fell silent. The only sounds were their footsteps and the rhythmic drip of water from stalactites that glittered like stars overhead. "Kael!" Eldrick's urgent whisper snapped him back to attention. "Look!" He pointed to markings etched on the cavern walls, symbols of dragons intertwined with the cosmos, a celestial map that seemed to pulse with life under their gaze. "We're close," Kael breathed, tracing a finger over the engravings. He felt a connection, a thread that tied him to an age of heroes and ancient beings. With each revelation, their determination grew, weaving courage and destiny into a tapestry of hope. The caves had deepened the bond between them. They were no longer just allies but brothers forged in the fires of fate, ready to reclaim the dragon's breath and rekindle Luminara's forgotten magic. The cave's tunnels twisted and turned like a living creature, whispering secrets of the mountain as Kael and Eldrick pressed onward. The pendant's light danced across rugged stone walls, illuminating carvings of mythical beasts and forgotten legends. Each step forward seemed to echo a story, a footnote in the grand tapestry of Luminara's history. "It feels like the mountain's testing us," Kael said, the weight of the task ahead pressing heavily on his shoulders. Eldrick nodded, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of danger. "The dragon's breath is not easily given. We must prove ourselves worthy." They came upon a vast chamber where light filtered through cracks in the ceiling, creating an ethereal glow that revealed a pool of water so still it seemed to be a mirror. Across the pool lay a narrow stone bridge, ancient and crumbling. "Crossing won't be easy," Kael remarked, gazing at the precarious path. "But the stone carvings suggest we must reach the other side." Their eyes locked briefly, an unspoken promise passing between them. Eldrick took the lead, stepping gingerly onto the bridge. Each footfall sent ripples along the bridge, a reminder of how fragile their path truly was. Halfway across, the pendant around Kael's neck flared with light, casting his shadow long and dark against the far wall. The water stirred, and from its depths rose an ethereal figure, its form fluid and shimmering. "I am the guardian of the breath," the figure intoned, its voice a gentle yet firm caress, like wind through leaves. "To claim the power you seek, you must answer the eternal question, what is at the heart of sacrifice?" Kael paused, reflecting on the question. "It's a surrender of what we cherish to protect what we must save, to give, not for glory, but for love and duty." His voice was steady, carrying the weight of all he'd learned. The guardian glided forward, a smile curving its shapeless form. "Your heart knows truth," it said, nodding towards the bridge. "Proceed and claim the breath, but remember this. Honor the sacrifices made and those that will come." With renewed vigor, Kael and Eldrick completed their crossing. As they stepped onto solid ground, the chamber trembled slightly, a sign that the mountain acknowledged their resolve. Beyond lay a gateway hewn into rock, leading to a sanctum shrouded in mystery. "Almost there," Eldrick said, his voice grounded in hope. Steeling themselves for what awaited, they moved forward, hearts aligned with each step, and minds focused on the destiny they were woven into. The dragon's breath was close at hand, and with it, a chance to reshape the fate of Luminara. Emerging from the cavern's depths, Kael and Eldrick found themselves in a great amphitheater carved into the mountain itself. The skies above churned with storm clouds, a tempestuous sea of black and gray, framing the scene below. At the center of the amphitheater lay the dragon's heart, a colossal stone dice etched with symbols that shimmered with a vibrant glow. It pulsed with the rhythm of a sleeping giant, beneath which the world seemed to hold its breath. "It's magnificent," Eldrick breathed, his eyes wide with awe. His voice was barely a whisper against the roar of the wind that swept through the stone coliseum. "We're so close," Kael replied, his gaze fixed upon the dice. "It's as though the entire realm rests within its power." As they approached, the ground vibrated underfoot, and towering flames erupted around the dais, forming a ring of glowing fire. The flames danced and wove into the shape of a dragon, fierce and proud, its eyes alight with wisdom years beyond understanding. "I am Azeroth, keeper of the dragon's breath," the dragon intoned, its voice like thunderclaps drumming through the air. Kael stepped forward, every instinct telling him this was a moment sealed by fate. "Azeroth, we seek the breath to renew our land and save it from the encroaching darkness." His words echoed with vulnerability mixed with a fierce determination. The dragon regarded him, wings unfurling in a display of timeless majesty. "The breath is not easily won, young warrior. Its power is a burden as much as it is a gift. Have you the strength to wield it and the wisdom to understand its cost?" Eldrick stood beside Kael, strength in solidarity. "We've overcome the trials set before us. We don't stand here as conquerors but as guardians, chosen to bring harmony back to Luminara." Azeroth's eyes flickered, and the flames hissed softly in response. "Then prove your bond to your cause and to each other," Azeroth said, indicating the dice. "Bring your light to the heart of the storm, and let the true power awaken beneath the breath." Taking a deep breath, Kael placed a hand over his heart and then on Eldrick's shoulder. Wordlessly, Eldrick mirrored the action, their combined resolve a beacon against the storm. Suddenly, the air crackled with energy. A surge pulsed through the dais, sending tendrils of warmth across the stone. The dragon ascended skywards with a roar that shattered the bounds of earth and sky, leaving only the stillness of an ancient magic reborn. As the winds died down, the dragon's breath became a tangible presence within Kael's chest, deeper than flesh and more potent than any weapon. Looking into Eldrick's eyes, he saw both the burden and promise they now bore, a renewed hope for Luminara glowing as brightly as the dawn. With their destiny entwined, they stepped back from the dice, the path ahead clear yet fraught with challenges, each ready to wield the power they now held to protect their world. The power of the dragon's breath hummed within Kael as if a second heartbeat thrummed in time with his own. Eldrick and Kael descended the mountain, the path smoother than before, as though it recognized the change in them. Luminara stretched out below, the land a mosaic of hope and shadow as the sun broke through waning storm clouds. Kael's mind raced with visions laid bare by the pendant, images of dragons soaring in azure skies and mythical creatures roaming the woods, remnants of a time when harmony stitched together the fabric of the realm. "Eldrick, do you feel it?" Kael asked, wonder infusing his voice. Eldrick nodded, his expression a mirror of Kael's awe. "It's as if the mountain itself sings through us now, a harmony that echoes beyond the physical world." The path led them into a valley where vibrant greenery was interspersed with patches decayed by the encroaching darkness, the forest of whispers embracing them once more. They moved with purpose, each step bursting with determination, their presence a beacon of light warding off the gloom. But darkness wasn't silent. From the woods, the air thickened with a sinister energy, the shadows knitting together to form figures whose eyes gleamed with malevolence. "It's the Shadowkin," Eldrick warned, unsheathing his weapon with practiced ease, his voice calm yet urgent. Kael raised his hand, the pendant glowing fiercely. "Eldrick, remember the strength we carry now. Let it guide us." The Shadowkin advanced, their movements fluid yet unnaturally disjointed, murmuring in forgotten tongues. As the first reached them, Kael unleashed a thrust of energy from the pendant, a stream of light that sent shockwaves through the air. The creatures reeled, dispersing like mist against the dawn. Eldrick joined in the defense, his strikes imbued with the breath, each swing carving light through cursed silhouettes. Despite their advance, Kael felt an unfamiliar weight settle upon his heart, a tug of longing and kinship, a recognition that pulsed beneath the surface. These shadows, they were once beings of Luminara, twisted but not wholly lost, Kael realized, his heart aching at the thought. "Hope remains," Eldrick assured, his weapon raised defensively. "Perhaps the breath can restore them if we wield it right." With renewed purpose, they fought not just defensively but with understanding, each triumphant strike at the shadows infused with a whisper of redemption. As the final shadow melted into the forest floor, Kael and Eldrick stood victorious, their breaths mingling with the vibrant air of Luminara, a promise embodied, a world on the brink of rediscovery, drawing strength from their victory, but knowing the path ahead held greater challenges. Kael and Eldrick resumed their journey, resolved to reach the heart of the darkness and unleash the light that had long been waiting to dawn over Luminara. As they moved deeper into the heart of the Forest of Whispers, the air around Kael and Eldrick began to thrum with energy. The pendant pulsed brightly, its light a guardian against the shadows still lurking at the edges of their vision. They reached a glade bathed in an unnatural twilight, where the trees arched overhead, their branches weaving together to form a grand canopy. At the center of the clearing stood an ancient monolith, carved with runes that seemed to shift and change when touched by the light. Eldrick's eyes scanned their surroundings for any sign of danger. This must be the source of the dark force, a conduit for the darkness festering across Luminara. "I feel it," Kael replied, his voice barely a breath. "A wound in the magic itself that needs to be healed." Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a shadow materialized in the glade, coalescing into a figure of menacing elegance. Clad in robes of night with eyes that burned like dying embers, the form was a stark contrast to the light wielded by Kael and Eldrick. "I am Nixara, keeper of the shadow. Once protector, now prisoner," the figure intoned, her voice like silk torn by jagged glass. "Why do you come here, wielding the ancient breath of dragons?" Kael stepped forward, resolute. "We're here to mend what has been broken and restore balance to the realm." Nixara's laugh was rich with bitterness. "You speak of hope, yet fail to understand the depths of despair that bind this place. The breath may restore, but what if it destroys too?" Eldrick raised his sword, its edge ablaze with the dragon's power. "We choose to believe in redemption. Shadow and light need not exist alone. They are two halves of a whole." A flicker of surprise flashed across Nixara's features, a memory sparking briefly before being buried beneath years of darkness. "Perhaps," she mused, "there is still a sliver of light to be found, a chance yet to reclaim once cherished lores." Kael nodded, holding out the pendant as it blazed like a fallen star. "Join us then, Nixara. Help us mend this wound, and in doing so, find your freedom as well." For a moment, the world seemed to hold still, the air thick with anticipation. Then, as if stripped of its burden, the shadow within Nixara began to unravel, revealing a form softened and more radiant, a symphony coming into harmony. "I am ready," Nixara announced, stepping into the pendant's light. Her presence wove with theirs, an alliance of realms anew. Together they faced the monolith, channeling the breath through it, igniting the runes in a torrent of colors. Darkness and light twisted together, a dance of shadows and illumination that embraced rather than opposed. As the energies meshed, Kael felt the land quiver with awakening, as if an age-old slumber had finally given way to the dawn. The darkness that had plagued Luminara began to recede, and what was left was the seed of renewal, nurtured by hope. Transformed by unity and purpose, Kael, Eldrick, and Nixara stood as one, ready to shepherd Luminara into a new era, a tale of courage, redemption, and relentless hope about to meet its final chapter. With Nixara now part of their ranks, Kael and Eldrick felt an undeniable shift in the air, a collective sigh of relief as the shadows withdrew, revealing the true contours of Luminara. The journey to restore the realm was a symphony of untold stories finally reaching crescendo, a dance between shadow and light that had woven their destinies together. The trio stood in the Forest of Whispers, the air vibrant with newfound magic, threads of luminescence weaving through leaves and vines like veins. As the pendant's light mingled with the renewed life around them, the forest seemed to exhale a mist of rejuvenation. "It's like the land remembers," Eldrick said, his eyes glistening with the wonder of the moment. "And perhaps it forgives," Nixara added, her voice a melody of gratitude and newfound purpose. Kael led them forward, an invisible path unfurling beneath their feet, guiding them back to their home. The healing power coursed through the earth, bringing with it a chorus of life. Birds singing, leaves rustling, harmonic echoes of creatures unseen yet deeply felt. As they reached the edge of the forest, the village appeared below, basking in the glow of the morning sun. The air was thick with anticipation, the whispers of a promise made and now about to be fulfilled. Villagers gathered in the square, faces raised to the light, eyes widening as they saw the three figures emerge from the woods. Kael, Eldrick, and Nixara stood at the forefront, vitality and hope entwined in every step. "You've returned," cried a child, breaking free from the crowd to rush forward. Kael knelt, offering the child the pendant, a symbol too big for one alone to bear, yet perfect in its shared purpose. "It's you who kept hope alive," Kael said, his voice strong yet tender. The pendant glowed with a soft, eternal flame as it was passed through the crowd, a chain of hands and hearts ready to uphold the balance they had fought for. Nyxara watched, a soft smile on her lips, her eyes reflecting the path she had traversed in darkness and light. "It's a balance, this dance of realms," she observed, turning to Kael and Eldrick. "But it's a dance we can now lead together." The three of them stood, joined not just by a mission but by friendship kindled through trials of fire and shadow. Around them, the people of Luminara cheered, their voices rising in a chorus of restored hope, a song of unity echoing across the newfound dawn. As the villagers wrapped around them, Kael raised his eyes to the sky, feeling the pulse of the land align with his heart, the promise of an unshadowed tomorrow unfolding before them. Thus, the Chronicles of Luminara entered a new age, a testament to resilience and the enduring belief that within shadows, light could not only survive but thrive.